Good morning and welcome to the fourth hour. It's great to have you along this morning. And there are a few local things I want to touch on. Senator Mike Rounds was making some comments. The Let me make sure I can find this. I wish this window were bigger. One of my issues is I have trouble. Here we go. Senator Mike Rounds was on CNN and he was talking about Matt Gaetz. And he warned that the House Ethics Committee's decision to not release their report could delay the confirmation process. Now, this was Senator Rounds yesterday. He said, in fact, I mentioned this, I think, at 8:30 yesterday morning. I was seeing it on Fox that they were showing highlights of what the senator had said. And he said, for us, the more information we can get, the better. But look, we're going to do our due diligence, and there's information out there that should be disclosed. I think there are a lot of us here are going to ask, why isn't it being disclosed? He said. So seems to be there are going to be senators who will be asking, unless this information is forthcoming, unless they see it, why is this not being disclosed? I think Matt Gaetz would do himself a favor by sharing that rate himself. But we'll see. So that was Senator Mike Rounds yesterday on CNN. And then I wanted to share this as well, because we have visited with Brent Hoffman before. He is a state senator. And on Facebook, he posted this with reports of senators missing votes on judicial nominations. I looked up the attendance records of U.S. senators representing South Dakota. So I looked at both Senator Mike Rounds and John Thune. And as you can see here, now this, I'm going to pull it up so you can see it. Actually, I want to go back because this is the 116th Congress. Senator Rounds was most absent. That it rates from most to least absent. Senator Rounds was among those who was most absent, 12.6% of the times. That was in the 116th Congress. And then in the current session, or in the 117th Congress, it was the most absent, 21.7%. So in terms of missing votes, 21.7% of the time. So this was now State Senator Brent Hoffman has been on the program before, and I've had a really nice relationship with him. Those of you who watch on Facebook and follow on Facebook, you will see him from time to time. He's commenting on Facebook. He's been a big supporter of the show, for which I'm very, very grateful. Turns out I'm also a big supporter of his and the work that he's doing. But he goes on to say that, I saw this earlier. Let me pull this up. I want to look just at this. Here we go. So you can see the post. Then he said, here we go. Senator Thune missed less than 1% of votes. Senator Grassley, who is 91 years old, did not miss a single vote, he says. Wow. So Senator Mike Rounds missing about 21%, just over 21% of votes. I wanted to share that with you. And again, my thanks to State Senator for sharing that. State Senator Hoffman for sharing that. That's some other things I wanted to share with you as well this morning. And a lot of this is what's going on nationally. So Axios had a report this morning. This is from Axios, saying some House Republicans have deep reservations about recessing the House so that Donald Trump can use recess appointments. And so some of them are expressing that. Representative Mike Lawler of New York, I've already said we shouldn't be going into recess. Representative Don Bacon of Nebraska said it will be something that I discuss with leadership first before going public. I don't want to say either way out of respect to the speaker. I owe him to talk to him first. So I don't know how this Axios is very left leaning. So scoop, Mike Johnson's recess surprise. Um, this is, and if you go to Google News, this is still a big story this morning. And they start with the Axios story. It's I don't know how big a story this actually is. They think it is. So, and they are right here. They say for Trump's plan to work, he would need the cooperation of Speaker Mike Johnson, along with nearly every other House Republican. So, look how they write this. Trump is convinced that Johnson is on board. So, what is Axios suggesting? Johnson's what, not on board? But Trump is convinced that Johnson is on board. So we'll see the recess appointments. We'll see where that goes. That is, I think that's a very interesting story. Also, that's a great question. Steve is asking about those missed votes. How much of that was when his wife was sick? I don't think that would have been an issue here in the most recent session of Congress, though. Yeah. And that's what Steve said. Because Jay said, shares the death here as to when the senator's wife passed away. Jean Rounds had passed away. And that it happened in November of 2021. And Steve said, well, never mind then. He's just got bad attendance. Let's see what else I've got. Let's talk about Pete Hegseth, because we're getting close to Hegseth, and there's a story at the Guardian. Now, again, this is left-leaning Guardian, and this is a fairly new story. This is new this morning. I'm just seeing it. Police report details about the sexual and assault allegations against Pete Hegseth. So a woman told police he had sexually assaulted her in 2017, which is true. They did investigate that, and they found nothing. That's what it boils down to. So she claims that she was assaulted by Hegseth. He took her phone, blocked the door to a California hotel room, refused to let her leave, according to the investigative report. The news of this, but again, Hegseth told police at the time the encounter had been consensual. He denied any of the allegations that she was making. And in fact, police did nothing. Police found no reason to proceed. So I think there's a real effort here to try to smear Pete Hegseth in regard to this, and having, met this woman and at this event, so on, but then claiming rape afterward. We kind of have been through some of this a bit too many times. I want to be very careful in terms of what I say here, because I don't want to, but the country has been through this a lot. And why is it then that every Republican in power accused or approaching a powerful position, accusations of rape, and in this case, Hegseth paid the woman. He paid her off because at that time he was at Fox News Channel, and this is something that we see that happens fairly commonly, that people make these allegations and then there are payoffs. It's like, okay, this may not be true, but I don't want this person out there, slandering me and sharing that story. And so, as to whether or not it's actually true, actually happened, I certainly do not trust the Guardian to shed any light on that story. Um, we'll see what comes out, and I think Pete Hegseth is, my perspective of him, of what we learned about him already. I think he's a person of character, and I think he is going to survive that. But just as we have seen, we've got some incredible justices on the U.S. Supreme Court. And I'll remind you what their confirmation hearings look like. It was absolutely incredible. And so here we go again. It's unfortunately, it's an old story that we see, that these people, when they rise, these are the complaints that come forward. Again, we'll wait and see what comes out during Hegseth's hearing, and if in fact there's any truth to this. But I think we'll discover that. But it's we've seen this show too many times. I think it's a little bit discouraging. All right. Vladimir Putin opening the door to Donald Trump's peace deal. This is new. I'm just seeing this morning. It's actually trending on Free Spoke, as you can see here. There's stories at Mint, Newsweek, the Daily Mail, number of others. And it was updated a couple of hours ago. So Vladimir Putin willing to discuss a ceasefire in Ukraine with Donald Trump, but he insists that Ukraine give up on their ambitions then to join NATO. Yeah, I have a hard time believing that would have actually happened anyway. So Vladimir Putin willing to discuss a ceasefire, and it'll be interesting to learn more about that. Again, I'm just seeing that story. That story is trending here this morning, so I'll dive into that in more details before the show coming up tomorrow. Also, what's Steve saying here? Ukraine doesn't have an option but to go along with it, because once the purse strings are cut, they will fold like a cheap suit. And you already hear Vladimir Zelensky talking about that and worrying that Donald Trump is going to do that and what it might mean for Ukraine. That story actually was trending, and I shared it earlier this morning. So there's concern on his part. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson claiming Donald Trump is a threat to everything that is sensible. These people make me laugh. Insisted that Donald Trump wants to tear apart public education while maintaining a nation of upheaval and chaos. And I thought about this morning in regard to what he's saying. A nation of upheaval and chaos. And that to me is just, first of all, it's so damn funny because it's the Democrats who are the agents of upheaval and chaos. And you see it, over and over and over again, we've seen that. We're going to defund the police. We're going to see them. They're out there rioting. They are the agents of upheaval and chaos. So accuse Donald Trump of being that is, first of all, it's absolutely laughable. But I reflected on that for a moment, and you think about it. When Johnson says that Trump is a threat to everything that is sensible from a left-wing perspective, yeah, he is. But of course, the things that are sensible to the left wing are not sensible to an overwhelming number of Americans, and that's why Donald Trump won just so decisively in the election. They're not going to learn. This is the thing about Democrats. So you think, okay, they get handed an election loss. Did they learn anything? Based on what we have been hearing since the election, no, they didn't learn. They didn't learn a thing. They seriously, it's just more and more. So Donald Trump's a threat to everything that is sensible. No, my friend, you're the threat to everything that is sensible. It's just absolutely incredible. But Chicago, we're still a welcoming city. He said that didn't change after the election. This country has to remain a welcoming space for new arrivals and for immigrants. Well, what he's talking about is the illegals, new arrivals. They're illegal. The new immigrants, they're here illegally. I think Americans have spoken pretty clearly as to how they view that. Excuse me. How they view that entire issue. Um, we've got a different perspective. We expect people to abide by the law. And we expect people, if you want to come to the United States, we welcome you, but you need to play by the rules. I've talked about this ad nauseum, and the Democrats will never get it. The Democrats are the party of lawlessness. You see it over and over and over again. And this is what's just so. And apparently they have no plans to change. They don't want to change. We want to remain the party of lawlessness. The American people say, we don't want that. We don't want that for our country. That's not the leadership. That's not the direction we want to go. So folks say it over and over and over again. I don't know what it will take for. So Democrats lose this election. How many more will they have to lose? It's up to me. I mean, I'm comfortable with them losing every election. It's just absolutely incredible. So they are not going to change. This election really hasn't changed any of them. And I mentioned this the other day, that you have some who are saying, there are those who are within the Democrat Party who are saying, maybe it's time for a more bipartisan approach. Let's see where we can work with the other team. And, but some of these folks, there is absolutely no working with them. You would have to destroy the country as it is. So there's absolutely no working with them. They want, people to be able to come into the country illegally. That to me is just so surprising. I always knew that, Democrats, I understood why Joe Biden was letting all of these people into the country illegally, that he was hoping to win the election, and he couldn't do it by appealing to Americans. So he was bringing in people by the boatload. But I really kind of hope that rank and file Democrats would speak up. And you just didn't hear it. By and large, there were some, but you just kind of waited for Democrats to find their voice on this issue and disagree with the president and say, sir, they were silent. And this party is just so far gone. It's, I never believed this. And it's to a point where this is, if I hadn't, and I was raised as a Democrat, was a Democrat for, until the Bill Clinton administration, when I began to actually follow politics, and it was doing talk radio. I started following politics and started following events and what was actually happening, and started looking at it and what the Democrats were saying. And I would say, well, you're saying this, but you're doing this. There were all of these things that just didn't make, excuse me. This is what happens when I start getting wound up. I just got to relax, relax a little bit. Democrats were saying one thing, doing another, and I would see that more and more. And the more I got into news and talking about news and examining news, and the more you would see it, to the point where I said, I just can't be a member of the Democratic Party anymore. It was clear to me that my values were not those of the Democratic Party. And so then I must have been uh, early 2000s that I became a Republican. And I still, even as a Republican, I think I'm still kind of making a journey here, political journey, because I think if you're open to learning and examining things and taking a look at things, um, you're always kind of evolving, right? And that's what I've tried to do, and I have found that in most cases, what that has been is that I've gotten more and more conservative on, on a lot of these issues as time has gone on. So I didn't start out, I think, being as conservative, certainly as a Republican, as I am now, um, because the more, and especially now, you watch the Democrats again, it's just an absolute train wreck. What we see. And I have said this on the air a number of times. I'm just amazed that more Democrats are not speaking out and crying out for their party back. There are some who are, and I've talked about them. They've been talking about the destruction of the Democratic Party for for a long time, that they were proud Democrats, and they're very discouraged by what they have seen. Whereas I just examined my own views and said, I really don't have anything in common with the Democrat Party on a number of issues. More and more, it's Republicans, I find, where common sense is at versus among Democrats and the left. So I thought you meant that this reaction from the mayor of Chicago, you know, his reaction to Donald Trump and what he's saying. And I thought, again, on the face of it, I laugh at it because it's just an absolute joke. But I thought, I have no doubt that that's how he feels, because Democrats have got to be feeling like their world is falling apart. And it's because too many have bought into this nonsense for too long. And now you got people who are waking up and saying, hey, if we don't wake the hell up, we're going to lose our country. We're going to lose law and order on our streets. We're going to lose all of these things if we don't wake up and take our country back. And that's what you've seen. And so the left is just so incredible, and Democrats are just incredibly distraught over this. Whereas I think many of us see it as a good thing and a step in the right direction. Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama talking about Donald Trump and his cabinet nominations. And he made some comments here that really caught my attention. So he said, a lot of this is obvious. The majority of Americans voted for Trump. And he said, now's the time to put up or shut up. We have to get President Trump, his team, to the end of the day, and they can't be deep state. They can't be shadow government. They have to be people that believe in this country. I promise you, we're not going to put anybody, he said, I'm not going to vote for anybody that's not qualified, that I don't think will work hard for the people of Alabama, he said. So he's talking about Pete Hegseth. And he said, and this is, I love this. I love this, what he's saying. Ask yourself, why are my Democratic colleagues, the media, and the establishment losing their minds over these highly qualified nominees? It's because of the dislike for President Trump, the America First agenda, and nearly 80 million Americans who voted to send him back to the White House. Yeah, that is, I wonder how much dislike the legacy media has for you and me on Main Street. You know what I mean? And the fact that, they were in disbelief when Donald Trump won the first time. Remember, tears that were being shed that how could Hillary Clinton lose? They just couldn't see it. And so he went on to say panic has set in at the DOJ, the intelligence community, and the entire DC swamp. They're finding out, as Barack Obama said, that elections have consequences. Yeah, absolutely right. We're seeing the consequences, I think, of the election now with Donald Trump's choices. And again, when it comes to Matt Gaetz, I know we talked about that. We've talked about that a couple of times this week. And a lot of reaction. I'm just really have taken a wait and see attitude. Let's wait for the hearing. Let's see what comes out. Let's see how Matt Gaetz presents himself. Let's see what evidence comes out. Let's see what we learn. That's what the hearings are designed for. So everybody wants to make these decisions before he even gets a chance to, same thing with Pete Hegseth. Let's see what Pete Hegseth is made of. Let's see how he answers these questions. As I mentioned, I think the allegations that are out there being made against Hegseth, we've seen this same thing happen with Clarence Thomas, as well as others who are on the Supreme Court. So forgive me if I have an attitude of been there, done that. That's very much how I feel. And it's like with Pete Hegseth. Okay, here we go again. Matt Gaetz, let's wait and see. Let's have the testimony. Let's see what comes out. And take it from there. I think Americans are pretty smart. I've always trusted you because you're smart folks. Let's let the information come out and see what Americans think. And are we on the right track? Is Matt Gaetz or Pete Hegseth or, Robert Kennedy Jr., are they the right people to lead these agencies? Let's find out. We won't know until they have a hearing. So there are a lot of folks, they've got the nooses already strung, and they're ready then to, they got pitchforks in hand. It's like the old Frankenstein movies and the villagers descending on Castle Frankenstein. It's like, wow, man, let's just wait. Let's see what we learn and we'll go from there. I'll leave it there for today. I'm going to ask you to please hit the like button if you would. So much appreciated when you do that. So I thank you for that. And I'll see you again tomorrow. So let's leave it there for today. Thanks again for being here. Very much appreciated, my friends. Always good to see you.